You, Emily and Jen, for the second. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Then all in favor of accepting them as presented would say aye.
I,
Right.
Looks like none opposed. Motion carries. Okay, item number 2 is our working session. And it looks like we are back at the same spot where we ended from our former session. So, what I'd like to do is just give the members here an opportunity to voice either more questions or concerns regarding the item. I do know that there were 2 members who had to leave the call from our last meeting, and so therefore, just raise your hand and let me know who'd like to begin.
I'll go ahead and begin if that's okay.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you. So I just want to speak from the perspective of the Board of Ed, and also I serve as the facilities chair and have for several years, so can speak to our process of putting things on the CIP in that process. It is a lot of work and a lot of time and very careful consideration of prioritizing projects, thinking about what projects we need to do now, what projects can wait a little bit, and balancing out the needs of all the buildings and departments. And so in terms of the turf fields, I think, as you all know, these were approved in 2020, and they were sort of put off as long as possible. But it is, I think there's been a lot of talk about why this is a need, and we can discuss that more today. But from the perspective of me on the Board of Ed and the facilities, I think it is, its time has come that this project needs to be done. And we can talk more specifics, but that's my initial thoughts.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Emily. Jen, I see your hand raised.
Yes.
Jen, you're muted.
Thank you. My biggest concern with the project is the health risks. So, not sure if folks know my background, but for over a decade, I worked as an athletic trainer in the secondary school system, and I have never been a fan of turf fields because of the injury risk that is associated with them. I know some people might argue there's a minimal risk associated with turf fields. However, I think John Muller had shared with the group some studies. I've also, researched studies on my own, and there's new research now coming out aside from the orthopedic injuries, but also the other health concerns associated with the turf fields because of the rubber infill, the PFAS, cancer risks, and that sort of thing. So I really think there needs to be greater discussion surrounding that as we look to convert grass fields that we currently hold into turf fields. The turf fields that we currently have, that's a different story. Still not a fan of turf fields in any regards, but especially as we're looking to convert what's currently a natural grass field into an artificial turf field. I think there needs to be more discussion there.
Great. Thank you for your feedback on that. Anyone else on the line that would like to share some feedback? Al, I see your hand.
I would, Jen and I have had a chance to talk about these turf fields extensively. I'm very interested from our Board of Ed members, what have they learned about turf fields and their ongoing recommendations that we should be adding another turf field. I am very hesitant to substitute my judgment for those of the folks on the Board of Ed who I expect have done a lot more research into this. So I'm very interested, perhaps from Galen and Emily, what has the Board of Ed learned over the years about these turf fields?
Galen, did you want to go or you want me to?
Emily, if you could start because I'm still trying to adjust something, but I'd
Yep.
like to check for you.
Yeah. So, for one thing, I'll just say my daughter plays softball, and she played baseball, and I think she's played on every field in Madison. And the grass fields are not, there's dangers associated with those grass fields too. I know some of the fields in town, there's uneven playing surfaces, there's weird hops that balls get, hopped up in kids' faces. There's risks in all sorts of fields. I do want to remind us that, this is a baseball field we're talking about, and not a football field. Also, I believe all the other teams in town have turf fields that they can play on, and having a grass field significantly limits the ability to play on any of these fields in terms of damage to the field, weather issues. And I know that turf fields are the norm and the expectation. Am I a scientist? No, I am a public health professional, and I am a parent of a child who plays on turf fields. And I do support those for those reasons. Are there risks associated with sports? Absolutely. But that's, my 2 cents as a Board of Ed member and a parent of kids who play sports.
Thank you, Emily.
Well, I think the health risks are a tough call. I'm not a professional. I think they're marginal simply because they play so much on other turf fields. I think if it were dispositive research, we would act on it. I don't think there is. Uh, there are safety risks to the fields the way they are now, the baseball field the way it is now, as Emily said, bad hops. Um, and I I think the benefits outweigh the drawbacks. I could go into other reasons outside of health. Somebody votes against it on health reasons, but I don't think it's a significant enough risk uh, to to uh, reject this.
And just real quick, not to interrupt anybody, John Muller is asking if he can be re-promoted.
Yeah. And I will also echo before John gets on that it is a priority for the Board of Ed. We are spending hard-earned dollars on it and have scheduled it since 2020.
Peter Anderson, I saw that you had your hand raised.
Yes, I did. I want to make an important note here. It's important to know. There's debates on both sides of the fields, and what we also need to realize too is it's not going to make our players immune from playing on these fields because when they go away, they will play on turf fields as well. So, by maybe not moving forward with this, the kids are still gonna be playing on turf fields.
Thank you, Peter. Jess, I see your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. So I'm no expert in this field, but it would make sense to me that since there are so many schools, communities, professionals that are moving towards, turfs on all different levels, little league, freshman, JV, varsity, that we're going to see more, increased injury because it just only makes sense that we're having more turf, so we're going to have, we're going to see more injury. But I think, in doing some of the research, there's 1,500 NCAA athletic programs. Even Yale has one. It it does, because it's, because it is a uniformed field, there is, and not just would it be in Madison, but when they go to other towns to play, it does seem to make sense that because they're kind of universal, that the kids that are training on them and playing on them might even see potentially less. And from what I was reading and kind of researching again, just to really kind of have a better understanding of all this, a uniform playing surface and performance metrics being the same across the board, might even give the kids the ability to not get injured as much.
Thank you, Jess. John Muller, I see your hand raised.
Yes, thank you, Bob. I had a few technical issues here. My camera is not working today, but I hope you can hear me. Is that true? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I hope everybody at least had the opportunity to review the abstract of the article I forwarded yesterday. I think the bottom line is that if the consensus is that the advantages of a synthetic field with increased playability, reduced maintenance, and the like outweigh the increased risk of orthopedic injuries to our youth, then at least we should acknowledge that we're aware of those risks, and we've decided that that's a cost-benefit analysis that we've done, and we're willing to take that risk. I do think that there's repeated evidence in the medical literature that shows that there's an increased risk of injury, not just in professional athletes, which was the primary study or population in the study that I forwarded to you. There's also, that same study quotes other studies of the literature, including one that shows that there was a 58% increase in injuries, in lower extremity injuries in high school athletes using synthetic turf. So I just want us to be aware of that. And as I said, it may very well be the consensus would be that the synthetic turf is the way to go, but I think it's important that we be aware of the risks that we're taking. Parenthetically, I'll also say that my daughter suffered an ACL tear in high school that ended her competitive activities, and it took 2 surgical procedures in order to get her back to functionality, and her competitive days were over. So these things do happen, and we just have to be aware that those risks are out there. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Galen, I see your hand.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. Thank you, John. I mean, that's definitely a concern. I guess I did not read the study that carefully. Do they make a distinction between contact and non-contact? Because although this would be used, would be used for multi-sports, maybe soccer, maybe field hockey.
The primary, if I can answer that, I'll jump in if you don't mind.
Yeah.
The primary population in the study that was quoted in that Journal of Sports Medicine was, they looked at NFL injuries over 2 years in the NFL and showed that there was a significant increase in lower extremity injuries. They did not specify as to whether they were caused by contact or not. The rationale that they explained was that they felt that most of these injuries were twisting injuries. They weren't done primarily by contact, but because of the grip and the nature of the material, it tends to not give as much as grass. So when you plant your foot and you turn, instead of the grass slipping and giving way, the turf holds on, and all that torque is transferred to the ligaments in question. So that's why there's an increased risk of ACL, PCL, and MCL ligament damage. The other studies that they reviewed, including the one that I just quoted about the 58% increase in high school athletes, I believe that was all comers. That was not just contact sports. So, but I did not read that whole article or that journal report.
Thank you, John. Hi, Emily.
Hi, thank you. I know Galen mentioned this as a priority for the Board of Ed, and I just want to reiterate that and also say, we would never advocate for something that we think is dangerous for our students. And as far as our recollection, and according to our athletic director, we haven't seen an increase in injury for our students in town, who all the other students, all the other sports who do use artificial turf. And also knowing, like you mentioned, John, those risks of injuries, coaches, trainers can focus on more strength and conditioning exercises that, reduce the chances of those injuries. But as we know, and as I know, injuries are always a possibility. But again, I would reiterate that the safety of our kids is a priority for all of us, and we wouldn't be advocating for this if we were concerned.
Thank you, Emily. John, do I see your hand raised again? Is that?
Yes. If someone else has a comment, I'll defer to them because I've spoken already. But if not, just a response to Emily, I think your point's well taken, and training is important. But I'd have to say that I can't imagine that the NFL has any less training requirements or expertise than any high school. These professional athletes are trained to the best degree possible to optimize performance, and they still had increased risk of injury on synthetic versus natural turf. So they basically served as their own control. They looked at the number of injuries that happened to NFL professionals on synthetic turf and then compared that to the number of injuries of that same cohort of NFL professionals on natural turf.
Can I just respond really quick? I agree. And actually, what I've seen, what's been interesting is my daughter in her sports has been an increased focus just in the last year or two on exercises specific to ACL injuries, in particular in females, recognizing that girls are at increased risk for ACL injuries. And I've definitely seen an increased focus on stretching. And these are, with not NFL players, of course, these are girls in their teens, but I do think, we're doing better to prepare kids so they don't have the kind of injuries that your daughter suffered from. And I'll stop now. I know Al's hand is raised.
Yes. Hi, Al. Good morning.
Morning again. I certainly want to hear what everybody has to say, so I want to encourage Craig and Ben and Austin, if they have any information they could share with us this morning, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, actually, Austin just raised his hand, I think, right at the same time as you did. So thanks, Austin. How are you?
Good morning, Bob. Good morning, everybody. So I was just reading an article, and I'll read some of it to you. So this is from Field Turf. It's a sports turf company that we've used in the past. They're saying that artificial turf versus grass is less than a 1% difference in injury. So, minimal, if any, change in injury status based on the field surface that kids are playing on. And I think the point that was brought up earlier about contact versus non-contact sports, I have to believe that has some variance in the studies that we all read. Baseball, kind of non-contact. There is incidental contact in baseball, but you're not running into people or that kind of thing. So, I think the data, you could find the data that you want online, depending on which side of the fence that you are on this. So I totally understand that. But the playability and the use of a turf field is extremely important in New England in the spring. And for us to have a baseball field that's artificial turf is gonna benefit the players, not only at the high school and middle school level, but also at the little league and travel baseball level, that they'll have access to it as well. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Austin. Was there anyone else that had some feedback or questions?
Yeah, I'll go, Bob. I don't have much more to add. I think Austin took my piece about the data. I was just going to say Connecticut DPH and other states Department of Health have basically said, there's no difference, no discernible difference. I think they'd be shutting this down if they had found differences to those some of those numbers, and you can find different research out there. I think for us, I think the point that hasn't been shared yet is we can't maintain a grass field to the level that we would like to. And so there have been injury concerns with our grass field. We're not talking Notre Dame grass. We're talking, I'm a Steelers fan. So Steelers, grass in mid-November after it's been beat up and people are getting hurt on that. So, I think that's a concern. We can't use pesticides. We can't use certain things on the field, and that's a real issue. And I think the other thing too, I would just repeat that all our other athletes on the and on outdoor sports, except for cross country, are on turf. That they're competing on that and away games as well. And then when we look at injuries, girls basketball indoors is probably where most ACL injuries happen for athletes. And this is baseball. They're not on the turf as much as football or soccer. In terms of like lying down or getting on the ground. So, I think there's just a lot of good points. Final thing I would say is the board has prioritized this. So, it's gone through the 5-year cycle. We've prioritized it over other needs. It is important, committed money towards it as well. So, nothing necessarily new or earth, shattering, but, it's been consistent that we've been supporting this and want it to move forward. So, thank you.
Hi, Galen.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Craig. You summarized my points better than I could. Um, I think it's important to note that the current is unplayable or unsustainable, and given the location, we're going to run into the same problems, and those the conditions do present the way they are. Um, it is a trade-off. I think it's a I don't think the state or the schools would would use turf if there were significant risk. I don't think there is. Um, and I think there's probably, given the nature of the sport, non-contact, not making that 300-pound men slamming into each other, I think it's safer than alternative.
Thank you, Galen. I wanted to take the opportunity to share with you a letter that I did have the chance to email you. You may not have seen it as of yet. However, it is from the Madison Little League. And again, it is the point of view from the people that we represent. I'm going to just read it to you now. It says, I'm writing on behalf of Madison Little League in support of the proposed turf project at Polson Baseball Field and to ask the committee to consider adding it to the town's capital improvement plan. Madison Little League serves more than 650 families each year. These are all Madison residents and taxpayers whose children participate in baseball from Little League through middle school, travel baseball, and eventually Hand High School. In Madison, these programs are closely connected. The strength of one depends heavily on the opportunities available to the others. One of the biggest challenges we face each season is weather. Rain and field conditions regularly cause cancellations, and when that happens, every baseball program in town is trying to use the same limited turf space. Right now, there is essentially one turf field available to serve multiple teams and age groups. Demand on it is constant, and many younger players simply lose out on practice and game time. A turf field at Polson would make a meaningful difference for the entire baseball community, not just the high school team. It would significantly reduce cancellations for hand baseball and at the same time ease the pressure on the town's beach and rec grounds crew. With less time spent trying to repair and prepare a heavily used grass field, those resources could be spread to other fields and parks around town. Equally important, When Polson is not in use by the high school, it would give Madison Little League and Madison Travel Baseball access to another reliable turf surface. This would be an enormous benefit to our programs during poor weather when field access becomes the biggest obstacle to keep kids on the field. The project is not just a high school upgrade, it is an investment in the broader Madison baseball community and in facilities that will serve hundreds of children every year for decades. Improvements like this are what allow programs to run smoothly, reduce strain on town resources, and create better opportunities for young athletes. Our families understand this, and there is overwhelming support within the Madison Little League for this project to move forward. We respectfully ask the committee to recognize the broader impact this project will have across all levels of baseball in Madison and to include the Polson Baseball Field Turf Project in the capital improvement plan. This was addressed to our committee from Chris Boynton, who is the vice president of Madison Little League. Thank you for your feedback on that, Chris. John, I see your hand raised again.
Yes, thank you, Bob. Not to belabor this, but I don't want to leave people with the impression that these injuries on artificial turf versus natural were primarily due to contact sports. This really encompasses all kinds of sports, and I'll just read to you a portion of the discussion of that article that I sent to everyone, where they report that a systematic review analyzed 53 articles across football, soccer, and other sports. Of these articles, 32 compared injury rates on artificial turf and natural grass. And they report that of the 39 articles reviewed, 3 of the articles reported a higher overall injury rate on natural grass. 9.4% of the articles reported a higher overall injury rate on grass. However, they investigated that. It was interesting to note that they say all 3 of those studies utilized ad hoc cohort selection, so they weren't randomized controlled trials, and they were supported by funding from the artificial turf industry. So I think we have to be careful. I would be very interested in seeing the data that's been quoted about the 1% difference in injury rate. But I think it's important to realize, again, if the consensus is that the advantages of the synthetic turf outweigh the risks, then so be it. But we need to be fully cognizant of these risks and be willing to say that they're worth taking. So with that, I'll end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Jess, I see your hand.
Yeah, thank you. And so, one, I'm going to apologize because I'm new to the CIP and really want to make sure that that I'm fully kind of grasping our whole process here. And I think this is like maybe kind of a perfect opportunity to do that. So, my understanding is we're not, forgive me, but we're not here to debate like medical validity or not. But this has been on the docket. It's not something that's just like brand new that just popped up, right? My understanding it's been on the docket for 5 years, 5+ years. It has been voted on for Board of Education. And anyone, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I just really want to make sure I understand. But so Board of Education went through Board of Finance, BOS, and now it's at CIP. Is that so far accurate?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And so during that process, that long process and 5+ years, research has been reviewed. We know there's no definite answer one way or another, right? With regards to turfs, but we do know Madison is younger families are coming to Madison, and I'm one of them with small children. And the reason we're coming here is because of the amazing school systems and, quite frankly, the opportunities, right, that are being afforded to our kids. And so the idea of, we have to support the programs that are already in place. And if one of our fields, can't be used to the extent that it needs to be, which is, I think, is, from what I'm understanding, a gracious statement. And this has been something that's been on the radar for quite some time. It and I'm new to this, so again, like, please feel free to correct me. But so then it would only make sense to, yes, have this valuable discussion, and continue to support and trust the Board of Education, the Board of Finance, Board of Select, that has already gone through these processes, that they've looked at the research, that the cost analysis, that you could use a turf field for 500 times and only a grass for 100. We live in New England. Weather's changing. We need to be able to, have access to fields for our youth. Kids that play sports have, they're more well-rounded. They're more likely to go to college. They have less anxiety and depression. I mean, so the list goes on, but I'm not sure if this is what CIP is intended to do, or so I wanted to, share that, and also get feedback from some of the members that are more experienced. Thank you.
Thanks, Jess. And I think that you bring up a really good point. Of the fact of the matter is that there are people who have been in this for a very long time, and there are people that are new, but we're all residents and we all represent what's going on. So I think that your experience is just as valuable as anyone that has been in it, since the project began. So the feedback is very helpful for everyone. I wanted to recognize the fact that I see that Janet's hand is raised, and I don't think she's had the opportunity to speak as of yet.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so I just wanted to bring us back to the financial aspect of this, which is really what our purview is. It has been in the plan, but it is now a lot more money is being asked for to be added to the plan. And I'm just concerned with the number of expensive projects coming up in town. And I'm concerned about the amount of this increase that is being requested. And therefore, I'm asking this group, as a member of the public, what are the puts and takes on this? Like, if we're going to approve this, maybe what is it that we should put aside and not approve? Because I feel like there's just a lot coming up for this community to bear financially. Thanks.
Thank you, Janet. Galen, I see your hand.
Yeah, thank you. Fair question. Are costs going to go down in the future? I mean, I think the current field is unsustainable. And if we kick, this has been in there since 2020. If we kick the can down the road, I think it's going to cost more in the future. Secondly, I think that it's been publicly vetted through the CIP, and I mean, the name of the game is to compare projects and make trade-offs, and it is accounted for in the Stacy's spreadsheets. So I think your point's well taken, but there are always other things you could do with the money. I just think that this has been a need. And I think the time is right to go forward with it. Thanks.
Thank you, Galen. Hi, Al. I see your hand as well.
I wanted to respond to Jess's query. You're absolutely right. This has been before boards of selectmen, Board of Finance, and Board of Ed already many times over the years, because this is not our first artificial turf field. And very similar discussions have taken place in the past. And I think it's been over at least a 15-year period. And our predecessor boards obviously came to the conclusion that these artificial turf fields were in the best interest of the town. So this is not the first rodeo for this issue. And just because our predecessor boards in the past thought it was a good idea doesn't mean we should not have a lively debate right now. But I'm just trying to point out this is not the first time elected officials have had this debate.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Al, for that feedback. Is there anyone else that would like to add to the conversation or have a question? Jess, I see your hand.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. So I had the opportunity to speak to Chris over the weekend and reached out to a number of other parents and just to kind of gain a better understanding and and do my own research. But the initial cost, yes, I understand. Like even with Janet seeing that number too and being new as well, it is what it is, and I agree. It's only going to go up. Unfortunately, maybe if we did this 5 years ago, it would have maybe saved money back then. But I think although the initial investment, my understanding is high, the long term savings, the not mowing, not putting pollutants in the air with fertilizer. And the less maintenance, that we'll be able to utilize that equipment and onto other fields, at least, could be taken into consideration. Thanks.
Thank you, Jess. I wanted to also get the opportunity myself to give some feedback as a result of the conversations that we had on Wednesday. I wanted to just sort of provide my own summary of what I've gotten in. Member of the Board of Finance now for 2 years, new to CIP, but understand what we've seen that's come through the Board of Finance before. And again, not in any order, but this is just my feedback, my opinion, and my summary regarding this issue. First thing is I understand that there are already existing turf fields in the town at Strong and also the softball field. Did some research regarding who has existing turf fields now. Yale, Harvard, Columbia, Guilford, Kingswood, Oxford, Wilton. The list goes on. The rankings of these schools, we're in that caliber as the town of Madison. This initial project was approved and presented by the Board of Education on May 5th of 2020. At the time, it's my understanding that turf studies that were presented at that time did not present any concern for any of the residents or any of the parents regarding the health issue. I don't necessarily believe it's completely under our purview either as CIP to stop a project from taking place. The other thing is, again, speaking as a member of Board of Finance, a member of CIP, and a citizen of the town myself, my husband and I deliberately, chose to come to Madison because of it being a well-rounded town. I personally would never have any children who would utilize these fields. I probably would never go to a game, but I understand that there are people who are attracted to coming to this town because of the fact that we offer very high-end, well-rounded things for all of our children, and that we really believe in improvement of our town and the maintenance. Some other things that I think are really important factors that I found out about this is that the cost associated with what needs to happen as a result of the damage that takes place to the fields, there's always an issue with either having to not being able to play based on the weather or having to fix the field based on whatever may happen. And so therefore, this is really an overall improvement. The amount of calls that have come in from the parents who we represent to members of the Board of Finance since our last meeting has been very heavy, and every single parent is tremendously in favor of the project itself. So again, this is just some of my feedback. I think that we've had a really great opportunity to hear from all points of view regarding the subject. And unless there is anything else that someone would like to share, I'd like to get the opportunity for the voting members to get the chance to actually vote on the proposed allocation for this item. Was there anything else that someone would like to share? Okay, I don't see any hands raised. I then entertain a motion to approve the allocation as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Emily. Is there a second? I see a second from Al. Thank you. Is there any further discussion regarding this? Then all in favor of the allocation as presented would say aye.
Aye.
I see Emily. I see Al. I see Galen. And I am an aye. All those not in favor would say nay.
Nay.
I see
Nay.
Jen. And I see,
John.
I'm sorry,
John Mueller is
It's-
voting nay.
John is
My
voting nay.
camera's not working.
I see.
Yes, that's correct.
Galen, you voted aye?
I voted aye, yeah.
Yes, okay, thank you. Excellent. Based on the information and the votes presented, the motion carries. Thanks all for all of your due diligence and great conversation regarding this.
So
We can now move on to, yep, go ahead.
just one quick question. I'm sorry, I was trying to get the schedule up and running. Ben had gotten in and got it to me, so now we're working live again. Did we vote on this project or did we vote on the fund?
Oh, I'm sorry, you voted on just, oh, I see what you're saying because of the rest of the items that are in there. We voted on just that.
Okay.
And I think that, you know, it's probably significant because of all of the either, you know, conversation, discussion. I
Yep.
think it's significant that we made that. But then we can now move on to the rest of the items.
Thank you.
Janet, I see your hand raised.
Yes, I'm not sure if you wanted to go in any order here or if we can just kind of point out some things for discussion. Again, being new to this, I'm not sure if we want to discuss just the near in things or other things further out. I'm just not sure of procedure here.
Ben, hi, I see your hand raised. Is that an answer to the question?
Yeah, I was just gonna kind of refresh everybody. We had gone through in our previous meetings, pretty much I think all the projects in here, and the committee had been voting fund by fund. So if this one is kind of carved out to approve the baseball field, I think the committee is at the point, you know, if you want to do a second round of questions for any of the projects, obviously while we're on, we can answer those. If there aren't any questions on that, then I'd suggest the motion to approve the fund as a whole. And then we can move on to the next one. But if there's any project specific questions, happy to answer them.
Yeah, the Neck River solar panels. I had written a letter, an email to the board, to the committee, just with some questions on that because my main question was, wasn't this in the original plan when Neck River was built? And does that pose any risk to the roofs to put these solar panels on after the fact? And is there a study showing the savings we're going to achieve over the years and what's the payback on that? That was all in an email that I had written to the group.
I could grab part of that if
That
you'd
would be
like, Bob.
fine. Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah. So in terms of solar, a couple things to recognize here that this is multiple years out at this point, so it's not something that would be funded in next year's budget. I believe there was some pressure to originally put that into next year. Personally, I don't suggest that because we would be losing fidelity of our plan as a whole. In my opinion, this project should be in year 5 because we've already carved out projects and pushed projects out. So to drop one in that's non-essential in year 3, to me personally doesn't really make any sense. The reason why this is being accelerated was because of a tax credit program. That program is not a feasible construction timeline for us to do. And it's a non-priority list project through the state anyway. We could always secure a state school construction grant for solar panels. And that rate, our reimbursement rate is almost the same as what the tax credits are. So there should be no timing pressure on this one. In terms of the physical properties, the roof in that school was designed to have solar panels. I believe early on in the process, there was solar panels planned for that roof. I think they came out of the project for budgetary concerns. I have not seen a payback on that yet. What I suggested when this first kind of popped back in October, or at least came across my desk, was that if we're going to put this in the SIP as an out year placeholder, step 1 would be doing that conceptual design and ROI analysis. If we're going to go for a state school construction grant through the non-priority list process, we have to have a third party do a conceptual design anyway. So that would be a good first step in this process. We could use planning money for that, even operational funds if we wanted to for that as this ticked a little closer. For those of you not familiar with that state non-priority process, it's about 1 year from time of application to actually starting to build. So that's something we would normally, if you put a project 5 years out, once you get about 2 years out, you usually do the conceptual study so you're prepared when it comes up into your next year. I also think that budget number could use some refinement in the future. That concept study will help that as well. So I think whether the committee wants to keep it in year, I believe it's in year 3 now. Again, it's a placeholder project, but the building is designed for solar and would be ready to accept solar if and when the desire comes.
Also, I want to echo a couple things that Ben just said. We went so far as to actually put a thicker density membrane on the roof to accommodate for the solar panels. But yes, that entire roof has been designed for solar. As a matter of fact, all the conduits have already penetrated through that roof as well.
Thanks. Was there any other questions regarding this item? Then I would like to call a vote to accept the allocation for the fund.
So moved. Emily.
Emily, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jen, for the second. Any other discussion for the fund? Then all in favor would say aye.
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 Any opposed? Excellent. Motion carries. So now I believe what we're going to do is vote on the entire program. Is that correct?
Yeah, so if I can just make one note on this fund, I think it's fine, but you can see in year 4, we do have a very, very small negative running balance that fixes itself in year 5. So I personally am okay if the recommendation to the boards looks this way, but I just kind of wanted you all to know that this will be in your recommendation. But it is in planning and it's in outer years, so I do think it's okay. But I wanted to give you the opportunity just to think about that for a second if you wanted to move anything around to make that a positive number. If not, then Bob, I agree we can vote on the program in its entirety.
Stacy, just a point of clarification. Is this still on page 28 or it looks like it's a different page?
This page that I'm showing right now
Yes.
is the NRE fund. And you could see
Can you...
on the bottom, the running balance. And you could see
Okay. What page is that in our booklet?
Oh, sorry.
I was just wondering what page that's on in our booklet.
29. 28 and 29. So it changed a little bit, remember, because we moved some things around.
Okay, I got it. Thank you. I hadn't entered those changes, so that's why there was a discrepancy. Thank you.
Could we take down the Neck River solar panel amount since that's not even a real number right now?
The problem with that, Janet, is it nets to zero. We have the cost in there. We have a grant offset and then a special appropriation offset, so it won't help us if we take it out with the balance anyway.
Oh, it's a special appropriation. I see.
Yeah, to balance it out. Yeah. I don't know what people's thoughts are leaving it as is, or we can go up and look at some of the smaller projects and try to move stuff around. I mean, this is like I said, this is a recommendation and it's going to go through the boards next. So I think it's okay to leave as is if you're all comfortable with it.
And I'm recognizing Ben. I think he has some feedback for us.
Thank you. Yeah, just a suggestion. If you want to make that negative go away, you could take the under the town campus paving. The FY 29 has 124,200 in it. That's to extend the pavement out to the Arts Barn lot. If you wanted to shuffle that down a couple years, as Stacy's doing live here, that'll solve your negative problem. We could always shift it forward in future years if we choose to.
You
But
read my
figured that was an
mind,
easy way to do
man.
it.
You literally read my mind, but so this
Plus,
is what
I just went through a wetlands permit for the rest of the paving, and my head is still spinning from that. So I can't even imagine what it's going to look like when we go to pave an unpaved lot. So I'm like, let's do that a couple of years from now.
So I did that so you all could see what it looks like. I could always change it back. If you're fine with it, maybe we just revise the motion.
Anyone have feedback regarding the change?
It's a planning document, and I think that helps.
And especially since Ben's okay with it.
Well, when Ben and Stacy agree, it's good.
That's right.
Yeah, it was bothering me a little bit, but I was gonna let it go. So I like it better.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Do we need to make a motion for that on its own and then the entire fund?
I think you could just make a revised motion on the fund as is. And then we
Okay.
could vote on the program.
Okay. All right, then I will entertain a motion to accept the fund as we just amended.
So moved.
I'll set.
I see that from Emily. And I'm sorry, who was the second?
Jen and I overlapped.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Jen. Okay, any further discussion on this? Then all in favor would say aye.
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 Any opposed? Excellent, motion carries. Okay, I believe now we have the opportunity to vote on the entire program. Correct? Correct. Okay. I will entertain a motion for a vote on the entire allocation. Are you writing the Stacy, are you writing my motion or is that okay the way that I said it?
Yeah, that's fine. I was writing my own notes.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right, I will entertain a motion then to accept the entire allocation for the program.
Second.
Who made the first? I'm sorry, I missed
Oh,
that.
sorry. So moved.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for that. Was there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jen. Any further discussion? Then all in favor would say aye.
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 None opposed? Excellent. Motion carries. Okay. Looks as though now we can move on to item number 3. And we will now welcome some citizens' comments if they are available. Is there anyone on the line that would like to speak or share feedback? Looks as though I don't see any hands raised. I will thank everyone once again for all of your assistance, due diligence, tremendous work, and conversation regarding this. As a reminder, we do have our hearing, which is tomorrow at Town Campus at 6 p.m. And again, thanks all. Stay safe. Hopefully everyone gets to stay home during this crazy weather. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Thank
Second.
you, Emily. And I see a second from Jen. All in favor would say aye.
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 And I see no abstentions. Thanks all. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Be well.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Bob.
Thank
Great job.
you.
You.